So today I'm going to teach you how to play Monopoly. So like if you forgot or like lost your directions, I'm going to show you how to play. So I'm also going to add in some house rules at the end, and if you don't know what house rules are, I'll tell you what they are later. So first off, let's start with the money. So I'm going to take out my stack of money. So this goes for as many players as playing. So each person will get 2 500s. They will also get 4 100s and 1 50, a 20, 2 10s, and then a 5, and then 5 ones. 1 2 3 4 5. And then you can just lay out the money, for the extra money that goes into the bank over here. The bank is where all the money that hasn't been used is kept. So we'll just lay out all the money over here. You can stack up all of your money that you already have if you want, except it can kind of be easier to like use it if it's all separated. So we can line it up in the value order. And your money is equivalent to $1,500. So you all start out with $1,500. Either if you're playing with all the way down to 2 or all the way up to 6. So I am going to put the money like this. I always play this way because then it's easier for me to pay another player. So now we are going to get the characters, the die, and the cards. So I'm gonna take 2 characters. So I have a cat and a battleship. And if you have played Monopoly before and you're wondering why there's a cat, because there's not normally a cat, I have a newer version of Monopoly, and I'll say what else is included in future of this video. So let's start out with laying out the cards. So there is property cards, chance cards, which these aren't all the chance cards because some of them are mixed in with the deck, and then community chest cards. So they go on their provided spaces except for these ones because they don't really have any specific space. So I'm going to put these like this, and then I'll just put their properties over to the side. So you start out with the die, and you roll to see who goes first. So let's just say the person that is the cat is rolling. They get a 7. And then the person who is the battleship is rolling. They get an 8. So the person who is the battleship will get to go first. So then they roll. They get a 3. 1 2 3. And they landed on a property. So you can take your money. So you'll take like a 50 and a 10, and you'll put it in the bank, and then you'll take the property card that has the provided name of the property you just bought. So let's look for Baltic Avenue. So we can go through these cards and try to see which one it is. Here it is. So this is what Baltic Avenue is. I'll explain the other things on it later. The only thing I'm going to explain right now is this one, and this says rent, and that means whenever somebody lands on it, they will have to pay you the provided amount. So that is $4. Alright, then the cat is going to roll. They get a 7, so they go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. they land on the chance card. So they take a chance card, and then they do what it says. So it says, advance to the nearest railroad. So the railroads are like the little trains, like this one, this one, this one, and this one. And even though it says nearest, unless a chance card says, which is only one chance card that says that, you have to always go forward. So we'll have to go forward to that railroad. So it's Pennsylvania Railroad. And you don't have to buy it if you want to. But if you do want to buy it, you'll just take your money. So I just say the cat's money was over here. So the cat will take the money. And then the cat will get the railroad. And it has to be the railroad you land on. Like, this one is Pennsylvania Railroad. And if I bought this, I can't get short line. I have to have Pennsylvania Railroad. So then we'll just put that over there. And then now, the battleship roll again. And then, so this time they get a 10. And if you see that it is a 5 and a 5, they're both of the same number. That means when you do that, you can go again. But if you get that 3 times in a row, then you'll have to go to jail. Like, you might get a 5 and a 5, and then a 1 and a 1, and then maybe a 6 and a 6. Then if something like that happens, they would have to go to jail. But it might not necessarily happen in that specific number order. So they got 10. So they're going to go 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they landed on another property. So let's just say the battleship might buy it again. And then you'll take the amount that you're supposed to get. And then now they'll get the property. I am going to explain some of the spaces and what they mean. So, I'm just going to take the cat off right now, and we're going to move the battleship to those places. So if you land on Community Chest, which is the card with the blue chest, you take the card, and then you see what it says. And then the Community Chest can have lots of different cards, like this one says go to jail. This one says advance to go. This one says that you have to collect $10, and this one says pay $100. So there's many different things you can do. And then we're just going to go with the first one that says go to jail. So there is this thing called go, which is up in the corner. So, and normally when you pass it, you get $200. But if you get that card or you go to jail and you pass that, you do not get your go money. So then you have to go into jail. And then if you want to, you can roll to get out of jail. You have 3 tries, and you have to get 2 of the same number, like 4 and a 4, to be able to get out of jail. But you only get 1 try per turn, and then after your 3rd turn is over, if you haven't rolled doubles, then you have to pay $50 to the bank. And then what you last rolled, then you go that. So, and then there is another way to go into jail besides the cards and rolling doubles 3 times in a row, like I told you. It is this space over here. It says go to jail. So if you roll and you land on that, then you will go to the jail. But if you rolled and let's just say you were like right here, and then you rolled an 8 and you landed here, you do not have to go to jail. You are just visiting. If you look at it, you'll see that the words just visiting are on the edges of in jail. So those are the ways you can get into jail. Another thing about this game that makes it even more fun is houses and hotels. This is a house, this is a hotel. So let's just say that I went around and I bought this orange, and this orange. So as you see, I have all of the oranges that are on the board. Down here you can see the oranges. So that means the only way for you to get a house or a hotel is for you to have all 3 of the same color. But in this case, the dark blues and then the browns, they only need 2. So when you do that and you want to buy a house, you look on the bottom of the card and then you'll see how much it costs. So let's just say one house costs $100 because that's what it says. Then you can take that and then you can choose whichever one you want to have a house. And one thing that makes it difficult about this game is that you have to build on each thing one at a time. So what I mean is basically you have to do all 3 of them before you can get a second house on a different one. So let's just say you bought 3 houses. You couldn't just go 1, 2, 3 because that means you would have 4 and then none of the other ones would have any. You have to have, it has to be like this, 1, 2, 3, and then you can choose whichever one you want your second house on. It's always best to build on the one faster that costs more because this one costs $180 and this one costs $180, but this one costs $200. So that means when you land on it, you're probably going to have to pay more money to the person if they have more houses on it. So on the card, I will show you what the rest of the things mean. So we're just going to take this one, and you see how it says rent? It says $16. So if you have all 3 of the oranges, then you would go with this one. It says $32. But down here is when you buy houses. So let's just say somebody landed on it and you owned it and you had one house on it. They would have to give you $80. And those 2 houses, it would go all the way up to $220. And then with 3, $600, and then it keeps adding. And then you have to have 4 houses on each property. Let's just put 4 houses on each one. Like this. Let's just say you bought in this order. Now you have 3 houses on each one. And then now you have 4 houses on each one. So, like that. So, your properties have to look like that to get a hotel. And hotels cost the same amount, $100, except you have to have all 4 houses. You can't buy a hotel in one turn unless you have enough money to buy a hotel and all of the houses. I couldn't spend $300 and buy hotels for all of them without any houses. For me to do that, I would have to spend $1,500. And that can be kind of complicated when you're doing math. But if you don't like math, then you don't have to do it that way. So, you can take these, and then with $100, you can put a hotel. And then you can do the same thing for all of them. I'm going to go ahead and put those back. So, that can be a good way for you to make money. So, now I'm going to show you on taxes. So, there is luxury tax and income tax. Luxury tax, if you land on it, you have to pay the amount that it says. So this one says $100. Other versions, there's different amounts. But in this version, which is the original version, it is $100. And then income tax is $200. Several times you might pass go, but then land on income tax on the same turn. So that means you wouldn't get your go money because you would have to pay your go money to the bank. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and teach you things about the railroads. Because railroads are different with all the other things. So, I'm going to get out all 4 railroads. So, we have Short Line, B&O Railroad, Reading Railroad, and then over here there's still Pennsylvania Railroad. The more you own, the more money you will get if somebody lands on them. So, this one, Pennsylvania Railroad, let's just say you just own that one. Then, as you see on the card, you would get paid $25. But if you own 2, you would get $50. If you own 3, you would get $100, and then if you owned all 4, you would get $200. So the more you own, the more money you can get on that. So a lot of people go for the railroads. Alright, now we're going to talk about the utilities, which is the electric company and the waterworks. So this is what the electric company looks like. It looks like a light bulb, and the waterworks looks like a water faucet. If you own just one of them, if you landed on it and somebody else owned it, you would have to roll the die, and then you have to pay the person 4 times the amount. But if you own both of them, you would have to do the same thing, except you have to pay 10 times the amount. So that can be sometimes useful, but not many people I know like to go for that because they more go for the railroads. Alright, so one cool thing about this game is that you can trade properties. Let's just say someone owned Connecticut Avenue, Indiana Avenue, and Virginia Avenue. And then another person owned Tennessee Avenue and St. James Place. Let's just say the person that owned these 3 wanted St. James Place. So they can either pay them the amount of money that they and get this, or they can give them something for that. So let's say they gave you Indiana Avenue for St. James Place. But sometimes you want to be careful about your trades because you don't want them to get too crazy, because sometimes you might end up trading something that gives you a lot of money, and then in the future they will get that because you traded it for them. So you wouldn't want to do that all the time. So that's everything there is to do with the properties. And let's see, is there anything else that I wanted to tell you in this episode? No. So now we're going to move on to the things I told you called house rules. So house rules are basically rules that people have made up in the past that make the game maybe longer or more fun. So some house rules that I know is you have your money, and then whenever you pay something, anything, this is a house rule that one of my friends made up. I'll teach you the original house rule. So whenever you buy anything, maybe you might have to pay for luxury tax, or you buy short line, or you buy some houses for maybe these 2, then you have to give the money to the middle. So there might be lots of money in the middle. One time, there was $10,000 in the middle. And that's a lot because that's half the money in the whole bank. So let's just say there was all this money in the middle. And then somebody went around, and then they landed on the space that says free parking. If you're playing originally, that doesn't do anything. But free parking, in this way, if you land on it, you get all of the money in the middle. And that can be good sometimes because there can be lots of money in the middle at one time. But the original way is basically whenever you get a chance card that makes you pay, or you land on luxury tax or income tax. That is a more popular way of playing. So you can choose whichever way you wanted. So I'm going to put this money back and teach you another house rule. Some house rules aren't many people's favorites, but you don't have to play with every single one. If you want to, you can, but not necessarily. So one of them is called frozen assets. So it's whenever you're in jail and you're playing the normal way and somebody lands on one of your properties, you get the money anyway. But if you're playing that way, that means when you go to jail and somebody lands on one of your properties, you will not get the money. And some people don't like that very much. So I haven't heard a lot of people play that way. And then the last thing that I know is the go house rule. So whenever you land on go, you'll get $400 instead of $200. So if you just pass go, you'll get $200, but if you land on it, you'll get $400. So that's basically all the house rules I know. Alright, last thing I want to show you is how to play with the speed die, which is a new addition in the Monopolies that are made these days. So basically, you start out with 2 more 500s. Instead of starting out with 2 500s, you'll start out with 4 500s. So at first everything starts out as normal. You roll and then you go around and things like that. But when both of you, or whoever is playing, when all of you have passed go for your first time, or maybe some people might have passed it more than once, then you add in the speed die. So then every single roll you do, you roll with the speed die. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you're like in that space. And then you rolled this guy, which is the Monopoly Man or Mr. Monopoly. That means you go to the nearest unowned property. So that would be this one. If every single property is owned, you would have to go to the nearest property that isn't yours. So sometimes there's a hotel on these two, because if you have a hotel on both of them, it can give you lots and lots of money. And then they're right here, and they don't move anywhere, and they got the Monopoly Man, and then they have to go here, and then that means they have to pay the person a lot of money, and then they can lose. Also, you can roll, and then you might get a bus, because the bus looks like this. So, the bus basically means it can control how many spaces you go. So you got a 2 and a 6, so you can move either 2 spaces or 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or both of them combined, and that would be 8. So that can be useful sometimes if you're trying to get in some really special spots. And then one last thing, if you roll 3 of the same number, because there is a 1, 2, and 3 on the speed die, and let's just say you rolled all 3 ones, you can go any space you want on the board. And a lot of times, if you're playing with that free parking home roll that I showed you, people would go there, and then they would get all the money in the middle. So the speed die is a little bit more of an advanced way to play, but it's still a lot of fun. And then when you're rolling this, you goes first, you do roll with the speed die, but if you get the Monopoly Man or the bus, it doesn't count. Alright, this is how to win or lose. So when you own your properties, you mortgage them to get extra money if you're running out of money. So then you flip them over. And then this tells you how much money they are. And if you want to unmortgage them, you have to pay this amount of money. And you might think, why would I want to unmortgage them? Because that doesn't affect anything, that just gives me money. The reason why you want to unmortgage them is because if somebody lands on them and then they're mortgaged, then you won't get any money. So when you mortgage your properties and you want to get money, you can give them to another player for money. So then you'll get the money, but you won't have the properties anymore. Then they'll give you the money for that property, and then they can either unmortgage it or pay 10% of the unmortgage before they can unmortgage it, and then they do it later. So if they don't want to unmortgage it, then they have to pay 10% of the amount. So if all your properties are gone and you don't have anything else, and then you can't pay, if you can't pay, then you will be bankrupt and you lose the game. But one other thing, before you can mortgage properties, you have to sell your buildings. So on here, buildings cost $200. So you'll have to sell your buildings for half the price. So if you sell a building, you'll get $100. And you have to sell all those buildings before you can mortgage. And then if you don't have anything left, then you have lost the game. And then the remaining players will keep going until there's only one person left in the game. That person that is left in the game will win.